In 2020, we're going to have to vote for either Omar Escobar, a man of the people, or Gocha Allen Ramirez, an elitist. Yesterday, Team Hope for RGCCISD, which consists of Eduardo Ramirez, Basilio Di Villarreal, and Noe Castillo, posted an image of the payouts to 4 attorneys recognized as local counsel in the school defects cases. From June 2017 to February 2019, they were each paid a little over $380,000 each for a rough total of $1.5 million and change. Team Hope gives credit to the school employees and their constant selfless sacrifices. They go on to point out approximate salaries and recognize that the salaries are earned through sacrifice, diligence, and persistence. It is well-deserved and oftentimes not indicative of the true intrinsic value an employee brings to the district. In exchange for a few court appearances and minimal to no legal work, the lawyers G. Allen Ramirez, Hilda G. Garza, Gilberto Falcon, and Margil G. Sanchez raked in $1.5 million. Team Hope points out that Hilda Gonzalez has always defended Kids' Choice, and G. Allen Ramirez represented Danny Garcia in the federal wire fraud and bribery cases. They point out that as we speak, if the La Grulla High School construction settles, they stand to make an additional $100,000 to $200,000. It is clear why these attorneys are the first to defend these school board members. They have $500,000 riding on the hopes that they stay in power. There was a time when G. Allen Ramirez was critical of the money Leo Lopez was making from the school's construction, and if memory serves me right, he went so far as to call it being involved in self-enrichment. In no way am I trying to defend the actions of Leo Lopez. What he did was wrong. On February 28th, Dr. B had a problem with settling the Hernan R. Garza case, and she expressed concerns over Noe Castillo and Leticia Lopez's votes, as both has a financial interest with the city where Garza serves. The good doc requested information, and I guess something in the information made it okay for her not to question Gocha Allen Ramirez's self-enrichment, as he was helping Leticia Lopez and a crooked lawyer out of Brownsville try to beat down the school vault's door. I guess trying to snag a few more $100,000s makes a person forget about the effects of abuse on children and refusing to be supportive of a circumstance that rewards anyone for failing to act to protect our students, our children. According to Dr. B, it is okay for G. Allen and his fellow elitists to rake in $1.5 million and still reach for a few more $100,000, while Bernice Garza, the voter fraud committing vote harvester, to direct some copy and paste version of a nonprofit organization so they can take $600,000 more from the state. In February, she had concerns. Now, she has no concerns. What happened? You have to pay close attention to the timeline of when things happen. Up until April 5th, 2019, everyone thought that Danny Garcia was somehow in opposition of Leo Lopez. October 12, 2013, Rio Taxu posts a list of people advertising on the school scoreboard. Danny Garcia was on the list along with Leo Lopez. Throughout the years, Rio Taxu spoke about Leo Lopez in a negative way, and perhaps as we look back, we can see that it was rightfully so. Danny, on the other hand, was spoken about in a positive way, which would give the impression that Danny passed the Rio Taxu corruption test. For the most part, I like Rio Taxu as a page that brings to one place as much information about Rio Grande City as possible. In my opinion, Ross Barrera and whoever else he has working on the page, they have a way, sometimes pleasant, sometimes not very tasteful, but they have a way of delivering trivial and crucial information. I am mostly critical of the heavy bias they impose in their political posts. This bias is evident against Basilio Villarreal, and if it wasn't for Rio Taxu, I wouldn't have known that I was a Bachista long before I even knew who Bacho was. Today, I am proud to be a Bachista. If being a bachista means stopping corruption from easily taking the school's money and handing it to a select group of elitists to fund their campaigns. One would have imagined that upon discovering that Danny Garcia was working in a corrupt manner with Leo Lopez, that Rio Taxup would at the very least hold off on hating Bacho long enough to make sense of ulterior motives of the school board. But instead, Rio Taxup aligns itself with Leticia Lopez and Danny Garcia, and so does Dr. B. Rio Taxup was cheering them on as they try to hold each illegal meeting and trying to restructure the school board and trying to get G. Allen Ramirez some campaign money. It would have been more consistent of them to protest Danny continuing to serve as they did with Leo. In June 2017, Rio Taxup criticizes the reappointment of Leo Lopez as Rio Grande City Municipal Judge. But in May 2019, Rio Taxup defends Danny Garcia remaining on the school board. At the very least, they should have tried to be consistent. It is this inconsistency that deters me from taking Rio Taxup serious on political matters. For years, Rio Taxup has spoken against the use of politiqueras. Vote harvesters have their place within the rules that are set to keep them from compromising a free and fair election. I can agree with the Rio Taxup on not employing vote harvesters that break the law. What puzzles me is how willing Rio Taxup was to criticize District Attorney Omar Escobar in August of 2018 when a lawsuit was filed against him by Bernice Garza. But it did not follow up with Bernice Garza's arrest in January 2019 for committing voter fraud, nor did it mention that she lost the case. I don't know if Bacho ran over your dog, Ross. Maybe he grabbed the last bottle of Jack Daniels as you were reaching for it and all that was left in the liquor store was pineapple-flavored wine coolers. I don't know if you wrote to him from Hawaii and he sent you a picture of him with a girl you loved. Whatever this guy did to you, Jesus, man. It's been 6 years that you've been going off on how much you hate this guy, and it has blinded you to things that I can clearly see are far worse to the citizens of Rio and Starr County. If you're going to align yourself to anything, begin with making a distinction between what is corrupt and what is not. Reward the man for things you believe are acts against corruption. If you can't, then I will. Thank you, Bacho and Eddie and Noe, for providing the totals that you provided. I suspect the actual number is a lot greater when the jolly price tag and any acts of the school board provoking the suit is taken under account. It is an act of transparency, and for that, I thank you. I have to give Alan credit for at least putting himself out there to respond to posts. Aside from the unforgiving and merciless criticism that awaits whatever he says from me, there are others out there ready and willing to interact with their potential DA. Each voter has their own thoughts and opinions, and each mind contributes to the whole that is our perception of the candidate. In defense, Alan states that Team Hope fails to mention that the attorney fees for local counsel don't come out of the school's settlement money. It comes from the pocket of the lead attorneys. What he is arguing as if before a jury is that technically the school district paid local counsel $0. He also claims that Team Hope failed to mention how much money their work generated for the district. Then he insults Eddie Ramirez by referring to him as Little Eddie and mentions that Eddie Ramirez got himself on all the Roma construction cases by virtue of his position on the Rio CISD school board. He then claims that Team Hope is attempting to deceive the public. But when you have Elida Leticia cracking the keep it civil whip on Alan, as she points out how childish it was for him to call Eddie Little Eddie, she reminds him that he is a professional and makes it clear that it is unacceptable. Alan takes it like a man and accepts her point, even displays some manners by referring to her as ma'am, unless you are biased and then you heard ma'am in some offensive way that a cashier would refer to a customer she didn't like. Thank you, ma'am. But that's not how I read it. He goes on to climb up on that high horse of his and tells her to focus on the lies that were just posted by Hope. And again, he tries to sell the idea that the school district didn't pay the local attorneys a penny. Then he tries to control the conversation by asking questions, like he would normally do to someone on the stand that was forced to address his questions. But the folks are not on the stand, and Alan hasn't controlled much in this political courtroom as of yet. Instead, Elida Leticia slaps Alan right back into the witness chair and continues. You came out in your first video saying you were neutral, non-affiliated. But it's been obvious since day one who you were being pushed and supported by. You started off with a lie, and with that, you lost all credibility. Then she asks Better Public Servant to confirm whether or not Alan said he rarely reads what is said about him and points out that he is on Team Hope's page. Yes, Elida Leticia, he did say that. He rarely reads what is said about him, although he might accuse me of being technically wrong and correct me by saying that he rarely reads what I have to say about his cocaine snorting shenanigans. Gotcha speaks, and if I were a judge, I would have jumped in and told him to just answer the question. But I wasn't there, so now he loads up a comment and insinuates that Elida Leticia doesn't want to discuss the lie just put out by Hope. The trial lawyer of 40 years claims that avoiding his feeble attempt to lie has somehow destroyed Elida Leticia's credibility. So he guesses that they can just agree to disagree, as if they were talking about which shade of white more closely resembles the color of the last wad of cocaine that went up his nose. It isn't a matter of preference, counselor. He lays down a challenge, but if you're ever interested in the truth about the construction cases, ask to see one check paid to me by the school district. You won't see one because there are none. Have a great day. Oh, you forgot the ma'am. Anyway. Of course, much to Alan's inconvenience, Elida Leticia has a brain and is capable of thinking and is not afraid to use it in the presence of supposed self-proclaimed superiority. Her rebuttal: you were not paid directly, but whoever paid you was paid by the school district. Same difference, and I don't need credibility. I'm just a voter, not someone wanting to be elected. Good day, upside down smiley face. Alan has obviously attacked yet another person that is not his opponent in the race to become DA of the 229th. This could have been person number 2 wrongfully prosecuted in court. Better Public Servant's Leti Villarreal jumps in. Okay, so some other attorney gets the check, but you get paid from their take. What's the difference? You still get the money. Calling Mr. Ramirez little. One would think you could come up with something better than that, a man of your education. After Leti Villarreal cracked the be more creative whip, I feel that I will have to become more colorful in my own shenanigans in describing our Snortalata Cocanicus Moronicus. The jury weighed in, and Priscilla M. Barrera agrees that Alan isn't going to peddle the excrement of bulls as easily as he thought. The school pays lead attorney, and then that attorney splits it. She adds, you do know people are more educated than you think. Calling them ignorant, dumb, stupid won't work anymore. Mar pleads, Mr. Gocha Ramirez, I have one question for you. Please answer this. Did you or did you not get paid those checks? A simple yes or no will do. And that, folks, is how Alan would have asked it from someone on the stand. Only that there's no judge. There's no judge there to force him to answer. So he doesn't answer because, gosh darn it, it could be held against him when it comes time to vote. I half expected Ross Barrera to jump in full uniform yelling, you can't handle the truth. In 2016, they loved Omar Escobar and hated politiqueras and crowded parking lots. After Bernice got fired, they started hating the DA. They ignored Bernice's voter fraud, and Hilda and Ross sued to have the parking lots full of vote harvesters again. They hated Leo Lopez and Bacho until they found out Danny was with Leo. Then it was time to stop talking about guys like JJ Aguinaga because now they love Leo Lopez. The code of conduct Dr. B was preaching about must have been renegotiated sometime between February and May because she went from hating criminals to making them directors of her butterfly campaign hustle. Cocha didn't last 5 minutes on trial by the voter base that saw through his bullshit. I don't care what you guys did in the past. Today, Team Hope, you guys are the better public servants. And Bacho, buy Ross a puppy or something.